Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, rather, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Kelly McDonald with Detail Roofing, and today we're also joined by two of our account managers, Michelle Wallace-Carswell and Andrew Tate. So as the title suggests, and fittingly, since today is the last official day of summer, today we're going to be talking about the sun and how UV rays impact roof systems. So to start, roof systems really can't catch a break. Throughout the year, they are dealing with various harsh weather conditions, whether it's rain throughout the year, freezing temperatures and heavy snow in the winter, high winds, all of which can cause various damages to roof systems and potentially various leak issues. The thing is, though, that even throughout the summer, when it's a nice, clear, sunny day, there are still impacts that can affect your roof from the sun that can cause damages. So some of the things that we're going to be reviewing today is both how the climate impacts roof systems and the type of roof systems that we commonly see, specifically here in Southern Ontario, what the main concerns are with UV rays and prolonged sun exposure, as well as some of the specific roofing issues we see and possible solutions that you can utilize to fix those issues if you come across them at your buildings. At the end of the presentation, we will be doing an open forum Q&A. However, if you at any point during the presentation you have any questions that you don't want to forget, please feel free to post it in the chat and we will get around to it at the end. Okay, so again, with us here in Southern Ontario, we're in a continental climate. So as we were just mentioning, we're experiencing all types of weathers, the different seasons and everything that comes along with that. So with that in mind, the roofing systems that we see most often here in Ontario have to be able to withstand all the varying weather that we experience. Because of that, the systems that we see are primarily asphalt-based, whether that's in sloped roof shingles or on flat roofing systems. Comparatively, somewhere along the equator here that's in a tropical region, might not see as many asphalt-based roofing systems. You tend to see more concrete roofing systems, slate or clay tiles, metal roofing, things that wouldn't hold up as well here with the climate that we experience. As far as sun exposure and UV, again, because of our climate and geographical location, we're not experiencing intense sun throughout the entire year. The primary season is, of course, summer, when we're getting the longest amount of sunlight and when the UV rays are at their strongest. Throughout the year, we're experiencing just under 50% of sunlight year round. And again, the strength of the UV rays is going to vary depending on various factors. One thing to keep in mind is that even in winter months or times when it's overcast, although the strength of the UVs won't be as strong, they are still present and can still cause harm to roof systems. So the way that UV rays are measured is through the UV index. So this is an international scale that measures the strength of UV rays. And as you can see on the chart here, is categorized from low to extreme, with the higher number, of course, being a higher risk. This scale is primarily used to communicate risk to people so that we know when we're going out into the sun, what the risks are and how we should protect ourselves. It is useful, though, just to examine different trends, like when it's at its highest, when it's at its lowest, and how that might impact roof systems. When it comes to calculating the UV index, there are various factors that go into that calculation. One of them is thickness of the ozone layers. Other are more regional and dependent on various factors. So cloud coverage is a risk, or is a consideration. In the picture shown here, or on a day like today where it is quite overcast, again, we are still feeling those UV rays. However, it is a lesser amount. So today, for example, in the GTA, currently is sitting at about 1, so a low UV index rating. When the sun is at its highest point around 1 p.m., it's expected to be around a moderate rating at 4. So again, time of day and where the sun is, as well as time of year, summer versus winter, will impact that UV index. Altitude is also a consideration. So for every 1,000 feet of elevation, the UV percentage increases by about 2%. Where we're located, it's not a huge factor that we have to consider. However, downtown Toronto, where you have all these tall buildings, they're going up taller and taller all the time. Something like Aura condos, that's over 78 floors. That is something that is going to have a higher UV risk than something that is only a few stories or a low-rise building. Land cover is also a consideration. So again, any lower roof areas that are protected by trees or other buildings would decrease the overall UV index. So again, because of where we're located in the climate we experience, this graph here for the maximum UV index over the last year shouldn't come as much of a surprise. In the winter months, it is a low rating of 2, starts to creep up where we see very high, or in some cases extreme UV indexes in the summer, and then starting to dwindle down again in the fall. So with all of this in mind, why does it matter when it comes to roofing? The primary concerns here are, number one, heat from the sun. Heat from the sun is going to encourage membrane expansion. Membrane expansion and contraction in any building is completely normal. However, the sun is going to cause further expansion, which can lead to various issues. Also, one of the main issues is the oxygen produced by the UV rays and how that combines with various roofing materials, specifically with something like asphalt that's primarily found in our roofing systems. When those combine, it causes breakdown and degradation that can lead to further issues. Most roofing materials are made to withstand harsh weather conditions and the effects of the sun. However, nothing lasts forever. So eventually, with prolonged exposure, these elements will break down and you'll start to see those effects. So one thing that we want to look at now is what are the specific issues that we're seeing on roof systems of various types, and how are we going to solve them? So one of the biggest issues that we see both with 2-ply SBS flat roofs, like we can see in these photos, and with shingled roofs is granule loss. So again, these are asphalt-based roof membranes with the top layer being a UV protective granule surface. When the UV rays combine with the materials, slowly over time, the granules will break down. And if they're left for too long, they're going to get to extreme cases like we see in these photos here. If we have cases where you're seeing the discoloration and the black from the asphalt below coming through, or if there's piles of loose granules that may look like sand or something like that, that means that it's at a critical point that will require repair. There are various repair options when it comes to granule loss. If it's captured early, then minor repairs can be completed as more of a maintenance item. That would look like a liquid membrane application with granule renewal. If it's not attended right away and it's getting to the point where it is more critical, then critical repairs and further reinforcement would be required. Depending on the severity, that could either look like cap sheet membrane installation for reinforcement, or in very critical cases, full membrane replacement. So taking a look at what that manual or minor granule loss repair would look like. Again, this is a very standard maintenance item. So if a small patch of granule loss appears, not the end of the world. The main thing that can be done here is applying a compatible liquid membrane to the affected area with loose granules on top, just to refresh and renew the roof surfaces. In more critical cases, if the issue is widespread, or even if it is a smaller location, but it's happening in multiple areas throughout the roof surface, then a more extensive and thus more costly repair may be in order. So one of the options would be to clean and prepare the area, apply a primer, and then torch down a second ply cap sheet membrane. So again, this membrane comes with the granulated surface on top of it. So it's just to renew and reinforce the existing membrane. In very critical cases, if it is throughout the whole roof surface, then again, full replacement may be required. So as I mentioned, these UV protective granules are also present on most shingles that we see. And the idea here is exactly the same, where the oxygen from the UV rays is going to combine with the chemicals in the roofing products and break down over time. So as you can see here, if there's just small critical granule loss, not the end of the world. What you really want to avoid is getting to a point where it's like this widespread throughout the entire roof surface. Once the asphalt from the shingles becomes exposed and visible to the UV rays, further breakdown is going to occur, which can look like cracking, buckling, or curling of the shingles themselves. So if you do have just small areas and the rest of the shingles are in otherwise good condition, there's really no need to be looking at a full replacement. Localized shingle repairs can be completed. One thing to keep in mind is that prolonged exposure to the sun is going to cause discoloration, whether it's in the granules for shingles. This can also be the case for metal flashings or siding that can commonly be found on townhomes. So when you are having localized repairs completed, something that would at one point be an exact color match might not initially be an exact color match when it's installed, because of the fact that the shingles have started to fade and the new shingles are brand new and haven't experienced that discoloration yet. Again, getting to this point is something that you definitely want to avoid. In this case, there's really no saving a roof once it's gotten to this point. Full replacement is definitely required. It's been deteriorated to the point that all the shingles are coming loose. They're completely brittle. In this case, there were leaks occurring. And if that's happening at a building that you manage, a full replacement would be the recommendation there. So when it comes to high-rise condos, especially, one of the most common roof systems that we see is an inverted roof system. So that's when you have the membrane layer covered by roofing insulation, filter cloth, and either paving stones or gravel ballast. The membrane that is most common on these roof systems is either a liquid rubber or a liquid tar. Every once in a while, we do see a two-ply SBS roof system, which is excellent because that is going to provide the most reinforcement and the most coverage for the roof system, and tends to be one of the longest lasting roof systems because of all the protection that's provided. With the common liquid rubber and liquid tar systems, however, they're not always UV resistant. So if something happens and an area of the roof is left open and that membrane is left exposed, then it is susceptible to sun damages. So if it's left exposed, it's very likely that the membrane will dry out, leading to splits and cracks. Again, prolonged exposure is also going to encourage expansion. So if expansion occurs and then the winter months roll around, and that's when it will start to naturally contract, especially in the periods where we have very hot days followed by very cold nights, the roof system can go into thermal shock, again, leading to splits and cracks that are going to shorten the lifespan of your roof and also potentially lead to leak issues. So in cases where the roof system is left open and exposed, solutions are going to vary depending on the specific situation. If the filter cloth and insulation is in good condition and there is sufficient gravel ballast, then everything can just be reinstalled and put in place. If any of those items are broken down or deteriorated from the sun or from other elements, then new filter cloth, new insulation, or new gravel ballast may be required. And in cases where the membrane has been damaged from exposure, localized repairs may be required before putting the roof system back in place. One important thing to note, if there is a situation where the roof system is left exposed like this, no matter what the solution is going to be for the building specifically, it is very important that the membrane is inspected by a trusted professional roofing company before the roof is put back into place, just in case there are any damages occurring. Damages aren't always going to expose themselves as large splits or large cracks. It could be early signs of deterioration or small damages that most people wouldn't be able to recognize. So making sure that this is inspected and addressed if there are any issues is very important before covering it back up with the various layers of the roof system. So something that we find on every type of roof system, whether it's townhome, apartment complex, high rise, is sealant. Whether that's caulking, a liquid detailer, sealant is going to be present throughout the roof surfaces at fasteners, metal flashing seams, penetrations, all throughout the roof. So similar to some of the other things that we've looked at here, with prolonged exposure to sunlight and UV rays, when the sealant absorbs the UV rays, it's going to weaken the chemical bond of the sealant itself, causing eventual deterioration. So some of the early signs of deterioration would be discoloration. Once it gets to a critical point, you're going to see brittleness and splits and cracks. So in the photos here that we see, this has gotten to a very critical point where we are seeing openings, and openings here, especially in cases where there's penetrations, that's just a place that water can get in and potentially infiltrate the building, leading to further damages and potentially costly repairs. One suggestion, whether it's again with caulking, liquid detailers, or any other types of sealants and liquid membranes, you want to be reviewing and renewing these regularly. By doing regular reviews and renewals of sealants, it also saves you from having to do major projects where you're renewing the caulking in the entire building. Again, because caulking and other sealants are present in so many different areas, having to do a large caulking project can be incredibly expensive. So also ensuring that when these things are being applied, it's not just being applied directly over the existing sealant that's there, removing it, cleaning the area, making sure that the new caulking has a nice clean space to be applied to is very important and will help it adhere better and last longer. One of the items that we see very commonly on a number of different roof systems, this can be present on both flat roofs and shingled roofs, is blisters. These are something that are not necessarily directly related to UV rays and sun exposure, but that accelerates the presence of them and the growth of them, and that is blisters. So blisters are air pockets or moisture built up in the layers of the membrane or between the membrane and the roof deck. So again, the sun and the expansion that it encourages help blisters to grow and expand and multiply. These are most likely to pop up in the summer or following the summer months, less so in the winter months. When it comes to addressing a blister, it's really a gamble whether you leave it or deal with it right away. It's not 100% certain that a blister is going to cause any issues if you do leave it for a while. However, it does present a great risk if you do leave it because of the damages that it can cause if something splits and the blister pops, leading to potential leak issues. So again, with the heat, it causes the blisters to grow and multiply. So getting ahead of these early when they pop up can save you from blisters popping up throughout the roof surface or from popping and leading to further issues. What we would recommend is if you do come across any blisters that currently have any splits and cracks in them that are on a membrane seam or that are in a high foot traffic area, these are ones that you want to get addressed right away as they do have a greater risk factor of popping and presenting further issues. Solutions for repairing a blister are pretty straightforward. Again, if you are doing something about it, then the steps would be to expose the blister. If it isn't something that is accessible, you would cut the blister open to essentially pop it in a contained environment, reheat the membrane, and install new membrane over top of it, making sure that there are no air pockets or any air getting in. So with everything that we have looked at here, the main takeaway with any of the items, whether it's the granule loss, blisters, shingles, or sealants, is that none of these issues are going to happen rapidly. It's something that happens over time. And when there's small issues arising, it's best to deal with them right away before they become a larger issue that can be incredibly costly to repair. Completing regular inspections to look out for these items and deal with them as they're coming up is going to help to maintain the overall roof, which will not only extend the lifespan, but prevent issues that could lead to leaks and other damages. Okay, so now we have our Q&A period. If anybody does have any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask or pose it in the chat, and we can get around to that. Also, as we have here right now, because of the fact that we've just come off of a very hot summer, some peak UV indexes that we've seen, right now heading into fall and heading into winter is an ideal time to be having the roof inspected to see if there are any of these issues or other issues occurring that may want to be addressed before winter. So for that reason, we are offering a no-charge roof assessment. Anybody who enters that before September 30th will be entered to win a $100 gift card of your choosing. If nobody has any questions right now, I will be sending out an email later today with some information. So if anything does come up, or if there are any questions you have unrelated to UV damages, just in relation to the roof at your building or any other questions, please feel free to contact us and we will get around to those as soon as possible. Andy or Michelle, did you guys have anything you wanted to add?
I'm good. I think you did a good job covering it all. How often do you think you should have your roof assessed? Do you think it's an annual thing, biannual thing? Like, should it be after spring, before winter? Like, when do you think the best time to have your roof looked at is?
I mean, that's going to depend on the building and the age of the building. We would recommend at the very least annually. However, it is a good idea to have it inspected more often, particularly heading into winter and heading out to winter, as out of winter, as there are several issues that can pop up during those times. And definitely after any major weather events, especially with the amount of high winds and tornado warnings that we've been getting throughout this year, with the amount of rain that we've gotten, the amount of snow that we get through the winter, getting things checked out just to address any potential damages as soon as they're happening is very important and will help to extend the overall life of the roof.
Great. Well, having said that, Kelly, if anybody has any of their buildings that the roofs haven't been checked this year, then feel free to send it over to service@detailroof.ca. We can do a no charge roof inspection. Okay. Thank you very much, Kelly.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly, and thanks everyone for joining us.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.